Words of praise play an essential role in guiding a child's development. However, not all forms of praise are beneficial. In fact, some very common approaches are even harmful despite the good intentions behind them. The right kind of praise can cause a child to adopt positive behaviors, take on bigger challenges, and unlock their full potential in life. However, the wrong kind of praise can make it more likely that they will avoid difficult challenges, quit when the going gets tough, and even cheat to get a desired result. So let's explore 4 critical tips for how to praise a child with words, beginning with tip number 1. Praise the process, not the result. It's often tempting to praise a child for specific achievements, such as receiving a good grade, winning a competition, or completing a goal. After all, these kinds of outcomes provide tangible evidence of success that we want to encourage. Unfortunately, results are not an accurate measurement of a child's effort or growth. Some achievements are easy, while others are far more challenging. Thus, parents that praise outcomes can unintentionally incentivize their children to select easier goals while avoiding challenges that require extra effort. A better approach is to praise the effort or the process that led to success. Thus, when a milestone has been reached, identify specific actions that contributed to the result. Then, offer up praise that reinforces the behaviors that are likely to lead to further achievements in the future. For example, you might say, "You worked hard to prepare for the tournament and it shows," or "You studied hard for that test and it paid off." One important caveat is that such praise should be reserved for situations where real learning or real growth has occurred. We should never be content with effort that fails to produce results. Instead, we should find out why such effort isn't working and help our children identify alternative strategies that may work better. Rather than praising kids for ineffective effort, social psychologist Dweck recommends saying, "I like the effort you put in, but it looks like that method didn't work. Let's try another way." Then, once a child discovers how to achieve a significant milestone or outcome, you can praise the effort and persistence that led to success. Let's continue on to tip number 2. Avoid praising intelligence or speed. A common mistake that parents make is praising kids for fixed traits such as being smart, clever, or talented. This often includes praise for the speed at which they learn something new or complete an assignment. For example, a parent might say, "Wow, you're so smart, you completed that very quickly." On the surface, this seems positive. After all, it feels nice to be told that you are smart or you are talented. However, this kind of praise can lead to unintended consequences. The act of labeling a child with fixed traits can ultimately cause them to develop a fixed mindset, as defined by Dweck in her very popular book, Mindset. When that happens, kids start to think of their abilities and even their level of intelligence as largely set in stone. In other words, they view being smart or being talented as a trait that people either have or they don't. This becomes a real problem when they inevitably face challenges or setbacks in their life. And that's because a fixed mindset can lead them to conclude that they lack the skills or the intelligence to overcome difficulties. After all, if learning quickly means they are smart or talented, what should they assume about themselves when they are learning slowly or struggling? Over time, children with a fixed mindset become incentivized to avoid challenging situations. So for example, when they face difficulties in life, they're much more likely to quit, feign disinterest, or stop making an effort. And in doing so, what they're trying to do is avoid confirming both to themselves and to other people that they aren't as smart as people once thought. A better approach is to return to praising the effort or the process that led to success. For example, instead of saying, "You're talented," you might say, "Your practice time is really paying off," or "It must feel great to be rewarded for all your hard work." This kind of praise fosters a growth mindset in children. Rather than viewing their skills as fixed or largely set in stone, they understand that they can learn and grow through hard work and persistence. Naturally, they still experience many difficulties, but instead of feeling stuck, they view setbacks as temporary challenges to be overcome. Now, in situations where a child learns something very quickly without investing considerable effort, the best solution is to briefly apologize for not challenging them and then to find a more worthy task. For example, you might say, "Sorry, I guess that was too easy. Let's find something more challenging so you can continue to learn and grow." Let's continue on to tip number 3. Highlight specific actions or behaviors. Fortunately, praise does not have to be bland or generic in order to be effective. In fact, the most powerful form of praise is that which highlights specific things that a child is doing well, as described in How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk by Adele Faber and Elaine Mazlish. For example, you might say things like, "I love how you're always trying new things," or "I admire how you kept playing hard all game even though your team was behind," or even, "I like how you're always looking to make smart passes to your teammates." Such feedback is influential for 2 distinct reasons. First, it shows that you genuinely care not only about what they are doing, but about how they are doing it. And second, it highlights specific actions or behaviors that you would like to see repeated in the future. Consider the difference between receiving a generic compliment, such as "good job," versus someone saying, "I admire your attention to detail and your ability to take initiative." Naturally, the latter is far more rewarding and much more likely to inspire further effort. The key to providing detailed praise for your children is to pay close attention to what they are doing. That way, you can identify specific actions or behaviors that are beneficial. For example, things they are doing well or things that might lead to further progress. Okay, last but not least, we have tip number 4. Avoid the use of fake praise. It can be tempting to use praise as a tool to prompt or encourage behavior that isn't already taking place. For example, a parent might say, "I like how you're committed to finishing your homework," even when a child isn't actually living up to that praise. This kind of fake praise is often used in a sincere yet misguided attempt to motivate kids to take a desired action. However, praise is most effective as a tool for reinforcing behavior that a child is already doing. In contrast, fake praise comes across as insincere, manipulative, or just plain confusing. As powerful as praise can be, it's the wrong tool for promoting a new behavior. Instead, we need to find other ways to encourage our kids to adopt positive behaviors, and then, once successful, we can use appropriate levels of praise to reinforce those new positive behaviors. Now, I'll soon be publishing a video on how to get kids to do chores, homework, or almost anything else. And once that video is published, I'll link it up for you here in the video player, as well as down in the description box. But in the meantime, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos.